G'day and welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 25. Today we're taking a look at the YoloBox Pro, and we're going to take a look at this new device that I've got in here. I previously had ATEM Mini Extreme in the studio, but sorry, it's going to come back here to my main angle here. Got a bit mixed up there. On today's show, we're going to take a look at the YoloBox Pro, and we also want to take a recap of the ATEM Mini because I've been using that for over 2 years, I think now. So I want to look at some of the adjustments from the ATEM Mini going to a YoloBox because my ATEM Mini Extreme is in the shop right now. I'm going to take a look in depth at the YoloBox Pro. But this is the first time that I am streaming to Facebook and Twitch. So if you are joining on that channel, make sure you comment and say hi because I haven't actually pushed out video to that. I've been doing everything on YouTube up until this point. So, but first of all, let's take a look at the YoloBox Pro. This is what it is here. We've got, it's an all-in-one streaming device. And as you can see on my screen here, it's going to go into infinity. It's kind of fun. And if I minimize that, then I have control over switching and my audio and all that kind of stuff that we can control everything from this one device. But that's a little bit different to what I've done in the past, which is in the past, I was using the ATEM Mini Extreme, and before that, the Pro. My Extreme is getting fixed. Blackmagic is kindly fixing some inputs that have died on it. So it's a good time to test out some new tech, and the guys at YoloBox have sent this one over. So I thought it might be good, and that's actually how they discovered me, was through a video that I made on YouTube about the ATEM Mini Pro. So I thought it might be a good way to just kind of recap where I have come from on this channel in terms of starting with the ATEM Mini Pro, because I'm actually today using the ATEM Mini Pro to connect the cameras and that kind of thing. So let's take a little look down memory lane, and we can do a little bit of a watch party to give you an idea of what I was trying to achieve with the ATEM Mini Pro a couple of years ago and how that kind of relates to the YoloBox all-in-one device. So let's take a look.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn all of these parts into a rig for an ATEM Mini Pro. During the pandemic, I was one of those people who went out and bought an ATEM Mini Pro. Everything was going remote, but we still needed a way to bring in production people. One of the first shoots that I used the ATEM Mini Pro on, I didn't have any rigging, barely had any of the right power adapters to connect it. And I remember thinking at the time how, even though it's a really compact device, there's really no way to rig it as a field unit because it's really designed as like a desktop piece. But it's so close in size to be able to be something that could be mounted on a camera. And as I'm looking at my ATEM Mini Pro on the ground and my computer, I'm thinking one of these days I'm just going to step on this thing and this is going to break. So I need to find a way to build a rig so that I can get it off the ground, but also because even though it's really small, by the time we plug everything in, there's a whole lot of power bricks, connectors, cables, switches, routers, like all that kind of stuff becomes really like a permanent setup. So I wanted to find a way to make the ATEM Mini Pro work more as like a field unit, like a video village that you could take out, put it on the tripod so you didn't even need a table, switch it on, ready to go. And that's this fella. So this unit is fully self-contained. It can run off a single AC power
as you can
connection.
See,
but at the moment,
I have
I've actually got it running off a V-mount battery.
Pro down here, which is kind of
hence why
trying to be the same
with no cables attached. And it's running
I was trying to make something
through
similar, I
this
guess,
little
that
here,
screen. I find it interesting that even like
I've
the way
also
they
got a
put
Raspberry
the
Pi in the back,
inputs
which is running companion,
to make
so
them
I can
easy to
control
access.
that through my phone or my tablet, or even remotely through another computer.
What I've noticed about the YoloBox Pro here is that
that's why I was able to mount it vertically.
Because it's a touchscreen device, I have to bring it onto the desk. I can't put it at a distance.
All right, so I'm going to grab another camera. I've made all of the plugs
so it means I've had to reroute all my wiring from the rack onto the desk and then sending it back into the rack. So for my setup, it's probably
got a 10-inch lily
strange.
I like that because it's around about the
But I do like that because this is
ATEM
downstream.
I just wanted to keep
if I was to
everything
go
as compact as possible. I've got an articulating screen here. The ATEM
and it's a lot smaller than this kind of device here.
If it just had no buttons on the surface, I would probably be even happier, because then you could just like completely compact it away.
4 inputs on the ATEM Mini Pro.
Bolt 500 XT.
This rig obviously has got a bunch more stuff in it. Like I put like a Teradek wireless video receiver into it. There's a Raspberry Pi in there. I have a whole router.
I've got a cam link in case I need to take a video out into Zoom or something like that. A V-mount battery on the back, which is powering this whole unit. Now for audio, I've got a Sennheiser G4, which is plugged into
that was my
kind
of creation.
A little bit of treatment on that in the actual ATEM software. There's some really great audio Fairfield. Fairlight? Why is it light? This tutorial itself is being recorded to a SanDisk SSD. On the inside of here, I have an HDMI splitter, 5-port Ethernet switch, and I've got an ATEM streaming bridge. So at any point I can be streaming a program view out to get around some of the limitations, albeit there's a bit of a delay on it. I've got a USB-C hub which I can connect straight to my MacBook, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then this GL iNet router is fantastic because it's so versatile. There's so many ways that you can connect to the internet through here, through even like USB phone tethering, through Wi-Fi bridging, gigabit Ethernet. You can power it off a USB-C.
Probably one point I want to make is that
powering some of these things
since making this video, I've used
around
all of these parts again. So
down the line, if
I've like pulled that apart and I don't have that
all of these parts that have been used
in operation anymore, but I've put all of that into a rack, which I'll show you in a bit.
On the bottom side, I've got another rail system
here. So all of these parts were sort of
a tripod plate, so that I can actually
like I still use this
onto
5-port switch and what else have I got? I think the only thing that I don't use, and I may not go this far into the video, is I had some trays to put a whole audio device on. That was too much. This is where you need to put this on the desk. But what I loved about this, and I took this to a lot of jobs, was
my whole DSLR camera, as well as getting this rig off the ground. I wanted to be able to make this one of the camera positions so that you needed fewer tripods. So this would work well, probably for a fixed camera, so it's not bumped. So it was pretty like a wide camera, and then other cameras are actually manned.
Not having to.
So I can actually pop out the battery here. Don't need that anymore. Because on the rig, we've got a dummy battery, Indy Pro D-tap here, and this D-tap is also built into the rig. For this camera, there's going to be 3 connections. We've got the D-tap for power coming off the rig, HDMI obviously, bringing it out, and then I've also got a USB cable because these DSLRs have a way of turning themselves off. So if I can connect it into the computer system, then I can actually control it through Canon's software and keep it running so that it doesn't stop. So I have this dual razor, which just helps bring up the camera so that I can position it somewhere and keep the rig balanced. So now I have a camera rig that can be used in a sort of operator mode if you were shooting a live stream from a sort of third-person point of view. But I can actually swing the camera around so that it's something that I can use where I'm more like presenting the camera.
Was like, hey, you got to put shoes on. So since then I'm like, okay,
so now with the camera facing towards me, I can monitor everything that I need to just below the lens where the multi-view is. I'm fully self-contained. I could like pick this unit up, move it anywhere. I've got a wireless mic. Everything's happening within this unit. And then there's only 2 other things that you need to make this fully wireless, which is something to see and something to control. And I can do both of those on a tablet or a phone. At the moment, I've got a Cube 755, which is in this rig, and it is encoding video, sending it back through the Wi-Fi network. And then my tablet is on that Wi-Fi network. So I can actually watch the multi-view. Remember, we did that HDMI split in the back of the rig. And I can now actually control this remotely using a tablet connected to the Pi that is within this whole setup. You go to the keys.
And I still use that Pi too. All this kind of stuff.
Play around with
all of that.
Different types.
All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of what I was trying to achieve there. And it's very interesting because a lot of that functionality is now within this form factor of a single screen, which is very easy to move around. But there are some differences between the YoloBox Pro and the ATEM Mini Pro. So I'm just going to go through my layout here. So normally what I like in the studio, what I have is I run Companion on my Mac to be able to control things on the Stream Deck. That's connected to a switch and a router, which is setting the network addresses. I have 2 PTZ cameras, one above me, one in the auto queue in front of me, that is bringing in my studio camera feeds. And normally I would be routing that into the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO to do all the switching, but that is out of action at the moment, so I've had to re-rig back in my ATEM Mini Pro, and now I'm putting the output feed of the ATEM Mini Pro into the YoloBox, just into HDMI 3 on the YoloBox, and then that is sending it out to three destinations simultaneously. So that's kind of the way that I'm routed, but it does mean that I don't have my multi-view. So I'm using my HDMI out to go straight into the YoloBox. So I'm flying a bit blind here today, and I'm just going off memory of camera one and all that kind of stuff. And I've set up in the pre-show some actions, which you probably saw at the top of the show. There was a macro that did something funky, and I was trying to like bring it back onto the right flow. So it's something that I've just like pre-produced, and now I'm just hitting buttons to advance the show rather than seeing a multi-view and knowing what I've got coming up next. But let's go back to program view so you can see what is going on here. Okay, so YoloBox Pro, normally I do all my switching through Companion, so that'll bring up the ATEM Mini's control onto my desk for me, so I don't have to have all of these cables coming out the back. And can't do that with the YoloBox Pro. So that means, to be able to adjust it, I need to be able to bring all the wires up onto the desk. So it's just kind of this particular setup. Cool. So what I have is my ATEM sitting in the rack, which I'll go over to. It throws focus for a second, but it should come back. So this is my rack sitting just off to the corner, and inside of that is the ATEM Mini Pro, and that is what is doing all the switching of the cameras, and also doing an ISO record of that. But just want to say hello to anyone on Facebook and Twitch, particularly because I haven't streamed there before. Normally I'm going straight to YouTube, but with the YoloBox, I've been able to simultaneously go to all three platforms at the same. So yeah, say hi on, particularly on Twitch, because I haven't really set that up. So I don't know quite how that is working. So yeah, so we are going to we can take some comments, which is, here we go. So normally what I do is use H2R graphics to bring in the comments, but in this scenario, under my comments thing here, I have my YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch connected. No one on Twitch, no one on Facebook commenting. Maybe I haven't come up in that algorithm. And then on YouTube, this is where I can bring in the comments. So I had, where are you joining from today? And we got a couple people from Pennsylvania. Good to have you, Kulia. And Emmanuel from West Africa. Welcome. Vovan Dzin, I can't say that, I'm sorry, from Ukraine. And we've also got someone from Argentina. And we've got Eric from Rochester. Of course, good to have you here, Eric. And he remembers the rig that was the video that I was showing before. And then Emmanuel says the double audio of the video and the camera at the same time is distracting, which, yes, I think if I was to do that again, I would build in a button that as I switch between it, it would duck the audio. But I realize that's probably like program audio sending that out at the same time. We've got Bill from Hogansville. Welcome. And we've got, oh my God, from Australia. Good to have you here. That must be 11 a.m. That must be very early where you are, because my family lives in Australia, and I know at this time of day they are sleeping. So good to have you. Good to have you here. Eric says, "Is there an audio follows video in YoloBox Pro?" Yes, there is. I was trying to think if you're saying video follows audio. There is, and I think it's a bit buggy, and it needs a bit of work, which I'll go into that in a bit. So yeah, I guess this chapter, we're talking about YoloBox Pro in depth. So how to use it and what I'm still getting used to, because I'm obviously coming from the ATEM line of things where you can remote control it. And I particularly like having things back in a rack. I like having my desk completely blank because after a show, when I've got the Stream Deck, I can just unplug that and then it's all clear. Whereas to get this YoloBox up here, it is much more like routing things up onto the desk. And one of the interesting things about this is the YoloBox has a fan in it, which is good because you don't want it to overheat. But if I bring up my, where is it? I'm going to bring up my audio because I have a boom mic above me. I have a 416 just above my head. And so that is pointing at me, but it's also pointing down at the desk, which means I have my microphone directly pointed at the fan of the YoloBox. Hopefully you can't hear it because I've done some tweaking in the ATEM. If I go to, where are we? Here. So this is coming in mic 1. If I click on this one, you'll see I've got an expander on. So I'm going to turn off the expander for a second. And if I didn't have an expander on, this is the sort of background fan noise that we would get. There is a bit of AC in the room, but it's mostly in terms of proximity of what I'm hearing here at this point is the it's the microphone pointing at the YoloBox. So that's something to consider. Probably depends on the type of show that you're making. So if you are, I don't know, just say you're doing an event where you're a video producer and you're using this YoloBox to produce something at a distance, the fan noise is not going to be a problem. That's going to be fine. But for what I'm doing here, where I am presenting to you as well as pushing all the buttons, that means that I have to have this within arm's reach, which means because it's a touchscreen and there's no remote control for it, I can't put it further back, which would be nice to kind of have it sort of even, put that in an auto cue screen would be a great way of just seeing what's going on. And then to remote control it from down here on the Stream Deck would be great. So that's my first thing for YoloBox is open up the API and OSC and let's get some remote control of this. Yeah, so what do we got going on here? Eric says he's not hearing the fan noise during the silent bits and the expander is helping. So that is good. Yeah, I think it's been, I didn't want to push the expander too hard, but that is what we have. So I'm going to go into the YoloBox and just sort of give you an overview of this. If you're new to this device, it's going to give you an idea of what is in here. All right, so we're going to do this infinity thing here a bit. I can't actually back out of this, but there is a intro screen to set up a live stream, but I'm live streaming now, so I can't get to that at the moment. So I can tap here to go full screen, so I could just monitor. I can see my platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch are all good with green, that's good. There's a little record button up here, so I'm recording to the SD card, which I wish this graphic would change. It's a little, at a glance, it's hard to see that it is recording. It's just kind of like flashing red occasionally. So that would be good. And I don't love this stop button. That's kind of letting me know that I'm live streaming, but it's kind of weird that it's a stop button. I mean, I know it's sort of an Android device, so that's kind of what it is. Okay, along here we've got, we can bring on overlays. So I've set up one for Dave Joshua for New York, or bring on my Instagram if you want to go follow me on Instagram. So you can bring in overlays. You can set your platform. So I've already got this set up and it's good to see that that is all going. Yeah, going to go back a bit. This is where I do some switching. So now I do actually have a USB camera plugged in, which is pretty handy. It's a pretty terrible exposure here, just because of the lighting set up in here. But and then you can also add in things like a PDF. So what I had before here was, and you can flick through it. So there's a couple of pages of, that was my setup before. So going to go back to HDMI 3 because this is what is coming in from the ATEM Mini. The next thing is the audio. Now, see, this is a bug for me, which is this AFV, which I think Eric was talking about before. I've turned that off so many times, and for some reason, it just keeps turning it back on. So I want to make sure that's off. So the difference is if I have it on and I switch to that webcam, it's going to use the webcam's audio. So from this screen, I'm just going to jump across. And so then this is the USB audio of my Logic Brio, which is close to me, so it probably sounds clear, but hopefully does not sound as good as my 416 Sennheiser shotgun, which is coming in on HDMI 3. So my goal here is to bring in the program audio on HDMI 3, and anytime I switch to something else, I don't want that to change. I just want to switch to video. So that's the way I have that set up. You can bring on a scoreboard display. I don't have need for that. And then there is the minimize. Okay, so when you get into minimize, then you have similar sort of function across here. A few more things. Another bug that I've found is that it never remembers program out. So I'm always getting that. I have to reset that every time I go back in. And the same with, where is it, encoding. So at the moment I'm encoding at 4,500 kilobits per second, and that is often reset to 3,000 for some reason. So I wish that would remember the settings. Because when you are setting up something, you want to get all your settings done a long time before you go live, and then you want to have the confidence that when you hit live, everything that you've set up is not going to change. Otherwise, you have weird things happening, and it takes your focus off talking and presenting and that kind of stuff. So that's something I think that needs to be worked out. All right, so in here I can have some SD card management here. There's some files that have been already recorded to the card. And then I'm going to jump back over to something I want to experiment with is, where are we? Getting the audience to join. So under this thing here is a feature where I can invite guests. If I click this, it'll pop up and we can put in a name. I'm going to, on YouTube, I'm going to drop a link in here. And I'm just going to try, I don't know if this is wise, but I'm just going to try. If anyone wants to join for the next little bit, I'm just going to throw up a link. And it's probably best if you have webcam, good audio, and we'll see how we go with this. All right, so on the YouTube feed of this, that's where most of you are, is a link. So maybe Eric, if you want to click that link and join, and we can pop into the box, and we'll see if anyone joins here. So I'm going to get rid of my PDF. I can press and hold, and I go trash. So I'm going to delete my PDF just so there's not so many things in there. Is anyone joining in here? I think they will pop up in here if anyone does want to join. So I can allow participants to join via this button here. If I click that again, it'll mean that it's kind of blocked and no one can come in. We got Eric trying to come in, so let's see if he gets in here and joins. I don't have mute guest audio by default. It's good to have that there as an option. I don't have that turned on because it's one more thing for me to manage. Just want to see if people pop in, and then we'll see how this goes. I think I'm most curious with this to see the audio switching of it, because what I was showing before in terms of audio follows video, I don't know how the YoloBox is going to treat the audio, because obviously I'm very reliant on the audio coming in from the program on HDMI 3. The other thing that I'm dealing with is this YoloBox cannot do a mix minus. So it means at the moment, I'm hearing my voice back on a slight delay, which kind of messes with my head a bit. But I just have the audio low so that it's not too distracting, but it is something that I just have in the background, mostly because like when I'm playing music and stuff at the beginning, I need to know, is that coming through the program? So I want to be able to monitor that, but I am hearing myself on quite a bit of a delay now because I've got the microphone going into a mixing board. It's the Zoom down here, live track L8. That is going into the ATEM, which has a 2-frame delay added to it because the HDMI has some processing time. And then Jules, join now. If you got that link, join. Or Eric, if you've got that link, join and jump in on that. Hopefully that will work for you. If you can't get that link, let me know. I'll try and send it again. So then my audio is coming from the ATEM on a delay into the YoloBox, and then there's more processing. And then we have some people. So we have 2 guests. They just pop up as guests. Let's see how we go here. Hey, who is this? Hopefully we can hear here. Let me go to audio. Guests. Yeah, these are on. Cool. What's your name? Hopefully your audio is on. Sorry, say again.
Yeah. Brian.
Hey, Brian. Good to have you here. I'm doing this sort of
my other camera.
Cutting back and forth. So I probably need to set up a display for this. Let's see if we can do that. Add a video source. Sorry, I'm going to go back to show you what I'm doing. I haven't tried this yet, but let's see if we go. Add a video source, and I want to do, let's try like a triple. And I'm going to add a program, and you said Brian, right? Or John? I cannot remember. And then I can do. Hang on. I haven't tried the source. Let's see if we go. Add a video source, and I want to do. And I think I'm hearing you back again. This one, and then another guest. And I'm going to add. So here we go here. And HMI. Is it Brian, right? Or John? I cannot remember. Okay, triple. So now I should be able to bring up my triple, which is that's a bit weird. That's a black screen. Go back up here. And then another guest. Hello. And I'm gonna add. What's your name? So here we go here. And hello. You can hear me? Okay, triple. Now I should be able to bring up. Interesting, which is okay. So one of the challenges that we are, if I can go back to where am I?
Hi, Dave.
Hang on. Here we go here. And I've got so many things going on here. I got to get back to here. Okay. One of the challenges that I have is some of these guests, because all their audio was on, and we haven't set this up in the background. I think some of the audio is looping back in from what I'm hearing. But we have. Oh, that's my USB cam. Okay, I'm gonna try and add again. One of the challenges that I have is. It's interesting when there's like 5 people in this because I don't know their names. They just come up as guest 45 or whatever. And they don't know when I'm speaking to them because I can just be like, hey, you there. And they're just of the capacities of this. And if we crash. Are we back? I think we're back. All right. I can see it coming through YouTube. Oh my God, that was weird. It says I'm going to Facebook, so we shall see. I don't know if it started another thing. But so what happened there was I threw open a link so that anyone could join, and YoloBox does have a 5 guest limit to it. And so we had 5 people, and then it crashed. And if I go over here, what I've got, this went blank back to there's like a white screen, and the project was still there. So I clicked on the project, it brought me back in, and I noticed that this had been turned off. So allow participants to join, it was off. And so that had like kicked everyone out. And then my platforms, which I've got up and running again, this red button here said it was still going, and it said I think I've stopped recording. Let's start recording again. Start recording. So it stopped recording as well, locally to the SD card. So I've just started that again. But this button was still live. So the machine thought that it was still live, but these platforms were not connected. And so then what I was trying to work out was if I stop the stream, I think that would send to YouTube and to Facebook saying that this stream capsule is done, and it would close it out. And then all of you lovely people who were joining on YouTube would, that stream would be done, and I'd have to like start a new one. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep that stream going, even though there was a dropout in the actual streaming. So the way I got around that was, I don't know, I think I hit pause. So hopefully this doesn't do it. If I hit stop, it'll say, do you want to pause the live stream or just end it? And so rather than hitting end, I hit pause. And then I was able to start it up again. But it took 2 goes to get that going. And that's not ideal. So I would say just be careful with that, sharing, getting anyone on there. I do want to try out that feature a bit more. I think there's a lot of potential there because it is very easy to send it out. So on this one here, when I go invite guests, you can type in a guest's email and send them a link, or you can send a link to yourself, which then you could forward that email to a guest. And if you're just doing it with 1 or 2 people, I think that's probably a bit easier. And hopefully it doesn't crash it. But anyway, that's what we had going on there. So, there we go. Q&A. If you have any questions about YoloBox Pro or my studio setup here, drop them in the comments. Seems like most people are on YouTube today, but I will see if I can pull in any from Facebook. Where are my comments? I wish I could click and drag to rearrange these icons because, for example, the comments one is hiding over here and I kind of want that at the top there. All right, so I'm in the comments here on Twitch. We do not have anyone. Facebook, that could be a permissions thing. I'm not sure, because I feel like on Facebook, I do have a couple of friends who are commenting. Now we hit fan. Okay, so, yeah, not bad. Okay, so what I can see on my Facebook page over here is that it has finished. Hey, Reinald, hope you are well. We need to catch up. Good to see you on Facebook. I think what has happened, and mostly I live stream to YouTube, so maybe Facebook's a bit different, but I think it closed out the Facebook when there was that crash, and then it's gone back to a new thing has started on Facebook. Let's have a look. Live. We are hearing myself back in the video. Okay. All right, I have 1 viewer on Facebook to a new. I'm gonna mute that again. Yeah, it's a weird. I need to go like a what do you call it? Console. I find. Maybe I still don't know how to use Facebook, but I feel like the YouTube backend makes more sense than a Facebook one to me. But if you are on Facebook, say hi. Test, Brian. Excellent, Brian. Good to have you there. It's coming through. Okay, so we've got Brian Bailey on Facebook who is saying hi. And then everyone else is over on YouTube. So, we've got YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch that are running at the moment. Okay. Let's scroll back a bit in the comments and we'll see what we've got. Okay, going back. So this is the other thing about this layout is like, I've got to access this by scrolling here. And it's not the ideal way of doing it. So ideally what I would have is comments on a screen, probably just to the right of my auto cue, so I can see them as they pop up. And then I would like to control and advance them from down here, my little fingers. But it means that because this is all on the touchscreen, I have to look down, and I'm taking my eye contact off you, so I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna come back here too. That was the thing. Okay. All right, comments going on here. Looks like YouTube struggles a bit. It's not on your side. It is, the whole thing crashed. So, but good to know that we were able to get the live stream back up and continue on without closing out this session. Scott says, look like we lost the feed. A little bit of conversation chat here. Good to see you guys are chatting to each other. And Rob, always good to have you, and your comments are great. Thank you. Good input there. And we back. That was me. Okay, so from here we are back, as Rob says, and Eric says as well. And Scott, cool. Still on the guest channel if you need it, says Eric. I might try that on another day. I did do a test before this, just with myself. I actually joined via the iPhone, which worked. So I'm curious to test this feature out because I think it has a lot of potential with the YoloBox to make it a very powerful and easy to use feature. Because with the ATEM, because all of the inputs on the ATEM are HDMI inputs, you basically need to set up a computer, and it's a whole another machine and cables and power, and it becomes a bigger thing. So with that built into this single device, that's where it's going to be. There's a lot of potential for that to be bringing in someone very easily, which I like things that are easy. Okay, so for some of the users, they had to refresh the browser and then they came back. Yeah, Get Shot by Brian Photography and Cinema Inc. That was interesting. That was very interesting. They definitely need to add a mute all button. Let me just check my audio while I'm in here. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. See with this crash here, this AFV button has been reselected. So it means that if I click onto my terrible webcam, wait, where am I? Over here. Let me just, yeah, so I'm on my webcam down here. And now, hello. See, it's coming through that one. So that's not ideal. There we go. Okay, it's gonna put this one back up here where it should live. Okay, so we need to turn that off and just make sure that HDMI 3 is coming in. It wasn't a problem in that instance, but if you were switching the program through here, your audio would bounce around depending on which camera you're selecting. So that is not ideal. Glad to see that this remembers my position when I click back onto it, because otherwise I would spend a lot of time scrolling through here. Okay, Saul, g'day. Good to have you joining from Chicago. Eric says, didn't know stream pause was an option, but it cleared up without cutting it off and ending it, which is a nightmare on YouTube streams. You can in YouTube turn off auto end. I usually do that with my streams. So like I'll set it up in YouTube and I'll take off auto start and I'll take off auto end. So from your live streaming device, and I think YoloBox is probably a bit different. It's probably a bit more, I don't even say consumer level, but it's basically like on the YoloBox, you start a show and it creates the streaming keys and it's pushing out the show. Whereas with the ATEM, you will type in the streaming key into your actual ATEM and then it's streaming to YouTube. And that is separate to whether or not that stream goes live on YouTube. And I have once or twice hit stream on my ATEM and I'm checking it on YouTube and I'm like, sweet, we're all good. And this is when I was in the Hamptons. If you see the Hamptons show, that I did an entire show where I did not realize I was not live. So I was talking to myself for like 20 minutes before I was like, oh, okay. I just, with live streaming, there are a ton of things that you have to keep checking. Yeah. But yeah, pausing that seemed to fix it, but ideally it shouldn't crash at all. You know, a little disconcerting when it crashes. Jules said to himself on his phone, use Safari and get it to work. Would you know why? Sorry, when I send a link to myself, the timing here takes two. Where do I change that? I think there's a timing. No, these comments disappear too quickly. I can't read them. Is it that one? No. Oh yeah, I've got to go here, and then I've got I have auto hide and 10 seconds. That's probably good. All right, I'm just gonna stick with that. All right, so Jules says, when I send a link to myself on my phone, it wants to use Safari, and I can't get it to work. Would you know why? Probably because it's set to your default browser, I would guess. Otherwise, maybe try Chrome. Yeah, there we go. Set to default browser. Invite guests only works for Chrome for the time being. Good to know. Someone who knows more about this than I do. I've only just started using this. So that is a good note. I wonder if you could automatically like build that into the invite to like trigger Chrome. I don't know. And thank you for the comment there. That was great. It's all right. I do that all the time. Question: can you mirror YOLO screen and use it on a separate screen, like you mentioned? Yes, and that's what I have. I don't know if I can show you necessarily because I'm using it to live stream. But what I had before under here. And one of the bugs that I found is that this program out, like when I had that crash, it reset itself. So when I have this turned off, and I don't know how am I going to do this? Let me see if I can select this one. We're going to get into webcam territory. All right, so okay, I unplugged the webcam. Nope. Okay, it's found it again. So it bumped it. Okay, we are back with the webcam. So when I took this off the top of the computer, I think the connection is a bit loose and it lost it. Oh no, it remembered AFV, so that's good. So the question about program out, I've turned that off. So hopefully you can see, I have an auto cue here, which is it's not a very good view. Let me go over to here, which is, how do I get this? Okay, so that's what I'm looking at is an auto cue, and that is the HDMI feed out, which at the moment is just screen mirroring what I'm seeing on the panel. But if I click on program out, right, let me program out, there we go. So it's flicked it over to a full screen view, which is you know, how I can essentially put a confidence monitor back into my auto cue. So it means that I am looking at the program feed. I'm looking at myself basically, but the advantage there is that I know what's on screen, like if there's a comment or not, or sometimes like when I'm doing a demo on the computer, I'll be talking about something on the screen, like on the Mac, and I realize I don't actually have that to program. So that's where when that is in my peripheral vision or when I'm looking directly at it, I'm like, okay, I know where I am. Welcome, John. Good to have you here on the live stream. And yeah, good to have the regular guys here. And for the regular guys who know each other and that they're all well. 35 degrees C. Whoop, sorry, going too fast here. And yes, the HDMI program out did reset after the crash. So audio followed the video. Be interested to see if the encoding rate changed. Yes, it did. So my encoding rate reset to 3000, which on YouTube, I always get this comment of like, not sending enough data. and which is, yeah, some of these. I mean, these are firmware things. These can be fixed, but I wish, and I'm guessing USB-C out, that would probably be forgotten if something crashed, but I haven't used that yet. That would be essentially sending the USB video feed back out into a computer. AFV was remembered this time, so that is good. And yeah, okay. Keep the comments coming. What else we got? Chrome worked. Just going through the feed. You guys have got all this. Where are we up to? Okay, so Brian says it wouldn't let him switch from his laptop cam to his desktop cam when he joined as a guest. Not sure if that was the case for any others. It should do that. It might be a browser setting, like maybe within your Chrome, you need to enable the permission for it to use the webcam. That could be what it is. I'm not sure. But it sounds more like a browser or something on your end of things rather than a YoloBox thing, I would think. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we made it through those comments, which is good. And let's go over to... so I also wish that there was a way for these comments to be, what's the word, collated. So at the moment, all the actions on YouTube, if there was a comment on Facebook, I wouldn't see that. And there's not necessarily any sort of visual reference. So I'm just getting... I have to go look for the comment as opposed to like a notification icon maybe on the screen, you know, like up here that would say, hey, someone has commented, and I could click on it. But it'd be good to see something that's an aggregate of all of the things that are connected so that no one gets lost in terms of the timing of it. Because the timing of comments is pretty important in being able to respond to people quickly, because things get old very quickly. The other bug that I found, and tell me if you can hear this, but actually I thought one of the things that was a bit weird was, so with the YoloBox, they don't actually send you a power adapter. They send you two of these like USB-C and USB-A power things. And cable seems nice. It's just, with it being white on my desktop, it would kind of ruin the look. So I'm looking for a black one, and I found a GoPro one that I have it plugged in under the desk, but that connection is a little, I don't know, there's a bit of casing around the YoloBox that is taking a bit of space. Also, I found that this is a 15 watt, where are we? 5 volt, 3 amp, USB-C power delivery thing. This didn't work with the YoloBox, so I've got it plugged into an Apple USB connector at the moment, and then I'm using a GoPro cable to power it because it's black and aesthetics. But tell me if you can hear this, because the cable's a little bit loose, and when it pops out, I hear in my monitoring, I hear a ding, and I'm curious to see if that comes across the program or if that's just in the monitoring feed, because if it is just in the monitoring feed and you don't hear this, then we're kind of on our way to a mix minus. So what I'm talking about here is this connection up here. I can get some light on that. I'm casting a lot of shadow. I'm going to pop this out, and you'll see that this power thing here is going to go off charge. Okay, so that's lost it. And now if I plug it back in, do you hear a ding? I'll do it again. Pull it off. Plug it back in. Sorry, I was talking over the top of that. Ooh, there's a little flicker there. Curious to see if like the, oh, there we go. A little black drop out. Okay, so there's a little like ding that I'm hearing in my monitoring. I'm not sure if that's just coming through my headphone monitoring out or if that's actually going into the ping. No ping. Where are we? No ping. So that is good. Although I was like, when I was setting that up and I heard that, I was like, oh, is that going to go into program? Cool. No ping. No ding. No sound. Nothing heard. Thanks, guys. Good to see we're road testing this together. Yeah, so Brian says there is a mute guest audio by default option. Probably good to turn that on. Probably should do that. I'm just trying to think of like an easy way, because like when I'm here chatting, like the more things I have to do to manage that, it becomes a little difficult. We might try this on a different show, which is where we can go live and we can chat, because I think that's a really good feature. But the audio side of it, yeah, I guess I could, I don't know, I need to check it out. Also, it'd be good if there was some sort of default group display just built into that so you don't have to build it. So you could select a source, which would be your program feed plus each of the guests have a box. So if you've got 5 guests, you could have a 5 up, and if someone drops out, it would automatically scale it to 4 people, 3, 2, that kind of stuff. I think that would be good. The challenge is how someone knows they're on screen. So it's like sending them back, because, I mean, I guess if I knew people's names, then that would be a way of doing that. That's what they need. They need, so when you are joining YoloBox live people, this is what we need. When you're connecting on the guest end, you need to be able to type in your name so that it doesn't just come up as a generic guest. Because then I could be like, hey, Brian, and we get into the conversation that way. I think that would help. What else we got? We're going to wrap up soon. We've got probably about 5 minutes left before we end this little look at YoloBox Live. Get my comments here. Scrolling through. MT says mute guests on default would be, I think would mute all guests. I didn't see an option to mute them separately. So when you're in the audio settings here, I think you can just turn them on. So they pop up as different channels, and they were just all on before. Or then you could like turn them off. So that's how that was working. Eric says cognitive load with the YoloBox Pro is real, definitely. True for one person, presenter, producer type of live stream. Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm finding more difficult than the ATEM is that, I mean, I'm new to it, so there's obviously a learning curve, but I have to go into a sort of, tablet style device and dig through menus to find things. Whereas with my, not this one, let's go to my, what was it? I think it was this, no, this one, okay. With my Stream Deck, this has all of my inputs here, and then I can build a run of show for different cues. I can create scenes that are going to trigger certain things, and I can have a whole bunch of different actions that I know where they are, and I can assign them, which is something else that I would like to see. At the moment, they just pop up as like different sources, but if there was a remote control for the YoloBox, having sort of virtual inputs, like inputs, 1 to 99 would be good, because then input 1, for example, would be assignable to HDMI or USB or whatever it is. And then when you build it into something like Companion, on that end, you'd be able to maintain the same patching. I think that would work in terms of being able to carry it across different setups rather than it sort of dropping in and out. Let's go back here. Jill says, with your level of expertise on Companion, how soon do you think Yolo may adopt to using it? Yolo Live has been great with implementing things, and they're doing a ton of stuff in terms of building this developing it very quickly. I don't know what the limitations are on their backend in terms of opening up API or OSC commands to be able to do that. I feel like the will is there. I'm just not sure what limitations are in their way. But I think it would be very powerful to be able to have that, and just because then you could incorporate it into an ecosystem of, which I've sort of got here. You know, I've got an ATEM Mini Pro, which is handling the studio switching of my cameras, and it's bringing in the, you know, the desktop and the video playback and doing my audio, and then all of that is being packaged up as a program feed into the YoloBox. And I'm sort of treating it sort of as an encoder, like a multicasting to a multiple destination encoder, and it's also handling the overlay type stuff. The overlays are good because, like on the ATEM, if I go back to my multi-view here, I have 4 inputs. One of them is taken up with H2R, which is just, you know, trying to cut off the graphics, you know. So, and then I have a VLC playback. So that means on the ATEM Mini Pro, I've only got 2 inputs left, which is enough to do this show. But I have other sources that I could bring in like an iPhone source or that kind of stuff. And I just don't have enough space for that. Yeah. Eric says, like running a maze of menus. Yes, can definitely see that Stream Deck advantage. Much flatter, less hierarchy. Yeah, the other thing I love about the Stream Deck is just, it's one cable. So, you know, that's a USB-C connection. That's just very easy for me to pull that out at the end of a show, and then I have my whole desktop space here. Whereas all these cables, I mean, this is good. You know, like if you take this on the road, this does bring it into a single point, which is good for what it is. But I guess I'm trying to use this in a studio setup. And in a studio setup, I want this, not necessarily in a rack, but I want this away because this is too close. And then all my desktop has these cables coming out the back, which just sort of takes up more space. So, yeah, this is why I like the Stream Deck, because it sort of gives me sort of space and control of my arena. Cool. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour, so I hope that was good and helpful, and it was kind of fun having a crash in the middle of the show and getting that back up and running. That's part of what live streaming is, I think, is there's always something that goes wrong. Not always, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and particularly when you are doing everything yourself, there's just a ton of stuff, you know, your audio, motion stuff, you know. This is not photography, one snap and you can do it in post. This is like everything is live and happening, and you got to do everything all at once. I'm enjoying the YoloBox. I'm going to do more stuff on that as we continue. It's a good device to travel with, so I think if I have to do a show outside of the studio, like if I'm away, I think it's probably going to be my go-to for that. And my ATEM Mini Extreme is being fixed. It's in the repair shop, so we'll get that back. I am missing the 8 inputs. Yeah, so I'm going to have on my website, I'm going to have a blog post which is dedicated to my experience with the YoloBox. So you can go and comment there if you've got a YoloBox or if you've got questions about it. I'm going to update that as we go. So that is going to be at davidjoshuaford.com/production/YoloBox. If you go there, that's where I'm going to list out all of the little quirks that I'm finding with it, and hopefully the YOLO Live team will use that as some sort of feedback as well. But until next week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.